Hey everyone, welcome back to Magic After Dark. Today I am continuing what I started on the Aliens Bug Hunt book. It is a little bit late, I apologize for that, but why don't we just jump straight into it? When he was still just a kid, London had wheedled his way into a backroom poker game with a bunch of Marines and corporate spacers. He was already a pretty good player, and he had enough in his stash to last him through as many hands as it took to get the feel of the table. So he kept his mouth shut and his eyes open. Most of the guys were strictly amateur, easy enough to take, but usually only for small change. The one real player at the table was a grizzled Marine named Klonsky. He played like he didn't give a damn. He kept up a running commentary and stream of joking patter, hardly bothering to glance at his cards or the growing pile of cash in front of him. London played it cool, losing a little more than he won and throwing a few hands to come off as just another casual player, biding his time until he had the cards in his hand to make his move. It came in a game of Hold'em, and while Klonsky blathered on, London built a beautiful hand, a surefire winner that got better and better as the pot grew bigger and bigger, until every cent he had was on the table. But when they laid down their cards, Klonsky had him beat. "Fortune favors the bold, kid," Klonsky said with a wink and a grin, and London watched his former stake disappear into the other man's pile of cash. Much to his surprise, he wasn't the least bit angry or resentful. It had cost him everything, but it was worth it to find out just how much he had to learn. London walked away from the encounter poorer but wiser, and wearing his own version of Klonsky's personality, an ill-fitting suit that he gradually tailored to fit himself. London knew he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but he didn't care. As long as he could suck you into his game and take your cash, he didn't need your love. Signing on with Wayland Yutani had less to do with wanderlust than it did with cash. The pay was good and space was filled with bored people with money in their pockets and no space to spend it. Fortune favors the bold, he thought, and there wasn't anybody aboard the Typhoon bolder than him. London moved gradually ahead of the others through the tall grass. First come, first serve, though not at the price of caution. All the cash in the universe was useless to him dead, so he kept one eye on his environment, the other on his instruments, and his finger on the trigger. Death had reduced the floater to a slowly collapsing mountain of organic matter. It was still twitching and undulating when they found it, here and there. A tentacle lay twisted and exposed along its length, writhing like giant gray snakes in the rusty grass. "Are you sure it's dead?" Gilmore said. "Seems awful twitchy for a corpse." "As sure as I can be without a normal biometric to compare it against," Jepson said. "As far as I can tell, this thing's got at least 4 hearts, 3 brains. And what I'm willing to bet is at least 6 separate nervous systems." "Is it safe to approach?" Katz said. "I think so," Jepson said. "You think so? That fills me with confidence." Gilmore said. "It's fine, wise ass," Jepson said. "Just don't forget there's a third life form on the loose somewhere nearby." "Okay, let's see if we can find where the leaper struck this thing and get our samples," Jepson said. "Stay in visual contact with one another at all times," Katz said, looking around. "Where's London?" Gilmore pointed to a spot of a dozen meters closer to the forest of giant stalks. "I just saw him right over there." Katz cursed and called the warrant officer's name a few more times. There was no answer. While the rest of them took their readings and poked cautiously at the body with sticks, London gave himself a running start and hopped onto the floater. It was like trying to grab hold of a rubber sheet in the rain, but London managed to scramble awkwardly up onto the creature and find his footing. London grinned as he listened to his shipmates' speculative chatter over the radio. By the time they decided to do anything, he'd be back with the bonus already as good as in his pocket. The floater was headed due north in its flight from the Leaper, so the spot they were looking for would be on its south end. What was so complicated? As it turned out, not complicated at all. Within minutes, London saw ahead of him the massive, ugly trench torn in the sea of rust-colored flesh. Its edges were graying and oozing, splayed open to reveal a yawning cavern of hideously mottled and visibly decaying organic matter. London's stomach churned at the sight, and for a second he thought he was going to lose his lunch, but he shut his eyes and thought of the reward, choking down his nausea and getting to work. He filled some bags with samples of flesh and viscera from the wound, but the money was in specimens from the Leaper. He searched the wound carefully for anything that the striking predator might have shed. He heard Katz calling his name on his headset, but he ignored it and went on with his search. Let them wait a few more minutes. He'd claim a radio glitch, and none of the others would have be the wiser. "Answer me, London." Kat's voice crackled in his ear, and then his radio did glitch, the voice hissing into static, and the static stretching into a high-pitched whine that made London wince in pain. It was followed by a Leaper exploding from the floater's wound and rising high into the air, its shadow falling across the stunned warrant officer before the creature began to descend on him. Gilmore grabbed her helmet as though trying to cover her ears when the feedback squealed through her headset. The sound made her weak at the knees, and she found herself starting to twist and slowly fall. The low grav made her motions almost balletic, and as she turned to sink into the grass, she saw, rising above the floater, the great form of the Leaper, a thing of darkness and sinew and sharp-edged claws and fangs. "Incoming!" she screamed, but even she couldn't hear herself over the Leaper's call. The black thing was coming down on top of him. As London tried to scramble out from beneath it, he lost his footing on the rubbery flesh and fell. He was just able to wrap one gloved hand around the barrel of his rifle, which he had put down while he collected his samples before tumbling down the floater's flank like a rock in an avalanche. He hit the ground as the Leaper landed where he had just stood and then bounced, as if on a trampoline to follow its prey. London didn't have time to turn his rifle around. Instead, he swung it like a bat, smashing it against the creature's massive, narrow head. London didn't know whether he had hurt or just annoyed the creature, but had no intention of sticking around long enough to find out. As fast as he could regain his footing, he pounced into the air and took off in leaps that covered 3 or 4 meters each, knowing full well the Leaper could catch him in a single jump. But so far, nothing was breathing down his neck, and the squeal was no longer coming from the radio. The realization that she hadn't adequately thought this situation through struck Jepson like a punch in the gut. She had been so excited by the one Leaper that she never even stopped to consider whether there would be others. But she considered it now. They were bursting through the floater's flesh, 4, 5, 6, and more of them. They were huge, 5 or 6 meters high, and everything about them spoke to an evolution as a killing machine. Their hides were like polished ebony, and every appendage bristled with something pointed and deadly. Long, narrow heads opened into impossibly wide maws, lined with rows of razor-sharp teeth, and their lower halves were powerfully muscled to take advantage of the low gravity, with long, thick, spiked tails. Gilmore was staggered by the screech, her finger tightening reflexively on the trigger. The laser blast scorched the ground as she struggled to gain control of her muscles. The scream was rippling through her, making it difficult to think, much less take aim. The moment the Leaper had been spotted, Katz pulled a flashbang from his pouch and armed it. If it was a choice between getting the company its Leaper samples or blowing every last one of the ugly bastards to smithereens to save their asses, Katz knew which way he was going. He tossed the flashbang underhand, floating it right into the 3 of the monsters who were converging on him. As it left his hand, their scream ripped through his head, and he tried screaming loud enough to drown it out so he could get his rifle up and pull the trigger. The concussive went off with a blinding light and deafening force enough to make the thin air ripple, spreading a cloud of gray smoke all around them. Cats couldn't see through the smoke what, if any, damage he had inflicted, but the explosion seemed to have stopped the scream, at least for the moment. Then London's voice came screaming over his static-filled headset. "Heads up! I'm coming in, and I ain't alone." He wished to hell he had more than 3 of the little canisters left in his pouch. 2, after he used one to repel a quartet of leapers that were coming for Gilmore, and then down to none after they linked up with Jepson. But the first 3 blasts seemed to have made the leapers more cautious, giving them a wide berth as the shipmates backed slowly from them. "London," Katz said, "where the hell are you? We're surrounded here." "I got my own problems," the warrant officer grunted. "I'm cut off. I'm going to take cover in the forest." Jepson consulted the pad on her forearm. "Keep your transponder on so I can track you, London." "Roger that. I'll try to find an observation post so I can..." "Uh-oh. Shh." They heard, but the scream started up again and washed the rest of his words away in static. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Magic After Dark. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button and subscribe button. And comment, let me know what you want on the channel next. And if you have a story that you want me to read on the show, you can email me at magicafterdark@gmail.com. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.